Hello to anybody that joins. If anybody does join, these streams have got progressively fewer and fewer people viewing them. Let's just check stats, what the stream health's like. We'll just leave it a sec. Yeah, I think we've got one viewer. One's better than zero. Hello, hi, Galby3000, hi. Hope you're having a good day. It's I didn't realise it's bank holiday here today, which is ironic because I've been doing a bit of work this morning. Yeah, my wife just let me know. But most of today, actually, I've been spending updating this. So I promise these streams are going to be coming to an end with respect to the alien stuff, because I think we're pretty much there, actually. I've managed to do a few things that I wanted to do. I talked about it in the last stream there. I'll show you in a sec. Hang on. Let's just get the desktop up. So I'm just going to start this. Just please let me know, the one or two people are there. Is this too loud? Can you hear me over that sound? Because what I don't want to do is talk for a long period of time and find you can't hear me. So yeah, please, I'll type in the chat. Please let me know. Okay, sound is okay. Brilliant. Thanks, Galby. We'll just give it another minute, just in case anyone else joins. Let's just have a look. Look who's in the, how many viewers? Yeah, 2 concurrent viewers. It's pretty low. 3. We've got 3 now. Like, people are getting the notifications. It's a funny time of day again though, it's 6 o'clock, isn't it? And it's a weekday. It is, as I say, bank holiday here in the UK, much to my surprise. Sounds good to me, SHG Retro. Excellent. So, I did a few more bug fixes since 1.03. 1.03 is up on Atari Age if you want to play this. But the small changes, it's not going to take long to run through this, the small changes I'll show you now. And then I'll perhaps do a little bit of tidying up with the code, so I haven't really shown much of playing around with the code on these streams, so it might give you an opportunity to see how bad the code is really. And trust me, it really is bad in lots of places. So if I start this now, yeah, so I've got the alien health set to 1 at the moment, really low. So nothing's changed there, apart from a few bug fixes and things. Nothing you wouldn't have seen, and nothing you would see different there so far. I'm leaving it in this mode without the Lynx, thing around it. It's a bit bigger. It's ×4 instead of ×3, so it should be a little bit more visible. But if we just find the alien, and what I want to do is just, when it attacks, just hit it, and it should die pretty much instantly, because it's only got 1 health out of about 3,000. And I want to test the, I've added a sample there, an alien death sample. But I've also got, I'll show you in a minute, some stuff to do with the airlock, and that's quite cool actually. You might think it's a bit cheesy, but it's took me most of today to do it, but I'm quite pleased. In fact, while waiting for the alien there, because it'll tell us when the alien's attacking, I'll show you, I'll upload these if they're useful to anybody who wants to develop for Lynx. I've got 2 executables here I produced, and they're both pretty much doing the same sort of thing. One of them's called sample to asm, and it does what it says. It just, you point it at a WAV file, and it produces, as you can see here, this .asm file. And then if you use, I'll show you the sample routine, the playback routine. It's quite simple. Came from Carry actually. Let's just do play. There's 2, isn't there? There's play die. That's the one I've just done. Yeah. So yeah, you need to stop the sound engine, and this is on an oldish version of C65. From what I understand, the latest version of I'm still in my speech again. The latest version of CC65 supports a few different sound engines. This uses Chipper, which is something that Sage designed and built and stuff. So my development environment's a few years out of date now. But in general, you need to stop the sound. I'm trying to think what those do. I think one of those, I'm not sure what control register A and B do. But anyway, you set those values like that there. switch the stereo register into 0, because obviously it might sound a bit weird if you, well, you might want it in stereo actually. I never thought of that. You could have the sample coming from a specific side, because I think the way it defaults is like 0 and 1. You've got 4 channels, 0 and 1 to the left side I think, and 2 and 3 are to the right. So you could have it in stereo there, but anyway, I've set that to mono. Disable interrupts. I'm not sure if that's needed, but what I wanted to do at this point here is to make sure that this tight loop I've got that actually feeds the sample into the DAC, the audio DAC, was not affected by interrupts and things. So that's why I think I've disabled interrupts, I'm not entirely sure there, and then re-enabled them afterwards. But it's just a simple loop that runs through the sample data. And in my case, I've got this -128 onto every single value that goes to the audio DAC there, because the sample, if I show you that sample data, you can see it starts 128. It's supposed to be unsigned, so I'm not really sure what's going on. It's like that's, if you imagine a flat level in the middle of a sine wave, it seems like it's saying 128 is the middle, and that doesn't sound right. It sounds garbage. As soon as you subtract 128 from it, it sounds fine. And I'm not entirely sure that's the right way of converting what I think is probably a signed sample into an unsigned sample. I don't know. If you've got any thoughts on that, please let me know. And if you're watching this after the event, please just let me know in the comments down below. We'll just check the chat a sec. Yeah, so we've still got 1 or 2 people. Jubilee holiday, that's why the long bank holiday. Yeah, so yeah, obviously everyone else around the world is probably still working. It's the Queen's Jubilee. So Galbert, yeah, that's correct for unsigned samples. What, to start 128? Because that's what I don't get. The DAC doesn't seem to like that. If you feed it as it is, when it starts at a level of 128, it sounds garbage. I mean, I can demonstrate that if you want, but I found that if you subtract 128 from it regardless, it then sounds okay, which is really weird. I can't quite make sense of it. But you see, I'm thinking I'm clipping something doing that. If it genuinely is from 128 up to 255 and then the remainder down to 0, the negative sweep, by reducing 128, I am clipping it. But if I don't do that, it sounds bizarre. Let me just show you that now. If I just go back to the code. In fact, we'll do what I was going to do. Let's just wait for the sample. So the alien, let's just see if the alien's around somewhere here. Because I'll tell you what, hang on, I'll show you something else. Let's just reboot this because it's quicker than having to just wait. I forgot there's a cheat mode built into this. On the credit screen, press the 2 button. Forget what button that is on the Lynx. So you press it about 10 times and then you go into the game, and when the game starts you'll see there's no time check on movement. You can move instantly, which makes it great for testing. And you've got some diagnostic information up there on the top right, and you can see that there's numbers, there's various things like the alien location, the alien's health, I think. But if I get the tracker, just watch how fast I can move now. Just straight there, look, you can just move. Oh, hang on, there's someone in that room, so I can't move to that one. Let's get him out of the way. Let's go back to Ripley. Oh, yeah, see, you can just move instantly. No time delay, which is really cool for testing. I just went back down the other floor, and let's just have a look around here. Yeah, so I fixed, as I say, some more bugs. But the main thing I've done today is add an airlock death scene when you kill the alien. That's quite cool. Well, I think it is. It's a bit cheesy, but let's go on to that next floor. Alien attacking. There we go. So if I just attack it, what I'm listening for here is the sample. Now, it might be quite quiet. Yeah, so, and you've got the zoom into Earth there. So all this has changed, that's all in caps now. The reason being is I've redone all the strings. In the last stream there, I mentioned about moving the streams into their own little assembly file, and then putting those into the segment that it's related to. And I've done that with everything, and that freed up tons of memory. out of the read-only data area, which allowed me to do all of these little changes and things. So we've got that additional sample there now that will play when the alien dies. And if I just come out of this, we'll just do, we'll compile some settings in there just to make it force showing the alien being blown out the airlock. That should work. Which reminds me, there's another thing here was interesting as well. And I'm surprised nobody flagged me up on this at all, anybody who knows about code. You see this statement here, this if statement? Look how long this if statement is. This is the end game check, you know, to see as the game, as the alien dead, as the ship exploded, as the self-destruct timer run out, as the the lifeboat launched. I've got the echo, it's putting me off, and it's huge. And of course, if you run that every single iteration through updating the screen, you know, on every frame, it's a killer. So obviously, I removed that as well here. I just put this variable end game, and then in relevant places, as various things check at the right time to say, you know, is this something that ends the game? That gets set, and you've no longer got this crazy if statement here. So yeah, quite a lot of things like that I've been doing. There's still a few more of those to do in the main loop, because the main code loop's doing some unusual things. Like normally when you're developing a game, you'd probably want a routine to update your objects within the game, you know, your characters, anything that moves around and things, you know, anything you interact with, update where they are, yeah, and then you have another routine that draws, and you might have that might be split into a few different routines. You may have one that draws things in the foreground, one that draws background, one that draws, I don't know, sprites or whatever else. But the way some of this works is to gain, so that I'm not having to have two lots of loops on some of the stuff that's where I need loops. It made sense to do some stuff in the same place. So some stuff gets updated and it sort of draws it, yeah, or prepares part of the, you know, sets the sprites and things and positions of sprites, and then something else draws it later on. Whereas, yeah, that's not very good practice, but it is efficient in terms of the way I designed it. It was the best way to do it, really. Let's just Terrible Fire, hello, live again. Yes, yeah, I watched your videos earlier today, Stephen. If you've not already checked out Stephen's channel, check out his channel, because he's got a channel again, and he's done some retrospective looks at the Terrible Fire carts. And yesterday he also showed a Neo Geo cab he's building, because I sent him a board for that. Actually, there'll be a video coming up maybe this weekend or next weekend. I might do it this weekend. Jamie Morgan, hello everybody. Hello, Mr. Chris. Yeah, I hope you're well, Jamie. Are you doing a stream tonight, actually? Is it tonight? It's Friday, isn't it? Yeah. As I was saying, for anybody who's just joined, I didn't know it was bank holiday. Anyway, if I just go back to this code, what I was going to do is just put these... I've left these things in here, just commented out so I can... What was I going to do then? Blow up the airlock. Right, let's do that. So let's do... Set the airlock damage to 0. That means you can use it. Put the alien in the airlock, make sure the alien's not in the vent system in the airlock, and then open the airlock. And you'll see now what happens. As soon as the game starts, it'll load the thing where it shows who's died, and then before the map even shows, you'll see the cutscene thing that I've added in as an ending. And like I say, it is cheesy. It might be one of these things, look back at it later and I go, oh my god, I wish I'd not shared that. I've just skipped this, right? Ready? You ready to see the highlight of my graphical capabilities? I've done some serious image editing here this afternoon on that alien and drawing the airlock. It looks a bit Fisher-Price still, but you know what? You've got to remember this is blown up when it's on a small screen, and I want to test it in a minute. I haven't tried it on a real Lynx yet. It's not bad. I'll just run that again. So the thing. How I did that, I mean, what I did, I've done a few different things there. I've took one of the alien sprites and then flipped it, extended the tail outwards. I mean, it doesn't look very good, does it? I extended the tail outwards totally, which meant redrawing half of it. But the other problem is it was on a black canvas, and the black was blending right into all of the outline and the shadows and things around the alien. So I kid you not, I must have spent 2 hours doing, you know, pixel by pixel redrawing things, and because what I was trying, you need a transparency, you need a totally black background around it, and as soon as you remove that, it's then transparent, yeah. But the way it was, there was whole sections of the alien blended into the background. It's, you know, initially when you tried to display it, you could see holes in it, giant holes all down the left-hand side, all down its arms, because it blended into the black background. I hope you understand what I mean there. So yeah, I had to draw what wasn't there. You know, what we've ended up with. I can load the image actually as it is. Let's just do that. I'll just stop that a sec, because it'll make more sense if I can actually show you it. Alien E. Is it that one? Yeah. So if I zoom in, oh, hang on, that's not the one. It's not the airlock. It's Alien A. Yeah, the names are quite confusing. There it is, Alien AE. Yeah, so why has that got a red background? Oh yeah, that's the way I did it. Yeah, I ended up, like say, changed the background to a different colour so that it's obviously visible, so you can see the contrast when you're working on it. And once I did that, filled the background in red there, it's like whole sections of it were missing. I had to redraw most of the arms and things, all this here, the leg is gone. There were bits here that were just all missing and stuff as well. All of the black bits really around here. But then, as I say, I've flipped it, moved the tail over here, changed the position of this arm. I think I may have changed that position of that arm as well, actually. Just to make it look a bit different. It doesn't necessarily look like it's actually flying out the airlock, does it? And then, as I say, following up from that, I then needed to have an airlock, which is, yeah, I came up with that image there. So I got the whale and Utani symbol there, just a bit of text, and then these two sections with what I guess looks roughly like some sort of hazard warning airlock thing, with a little light up there. But just run that again, because the other thing is it should be flashing red every frame or so, as if like this thing going off. It's going to look better on the actual Lynx screen, so I'm keen to try that in a minute. Let's see what we've got. So yeah, it's all Gadget's faults this time. It's usually Banjo Guy, all his faults. How are you, Gadget UK 164? Yeah, I'm not too bad. I'm just really tired because I've spent far too much time on this over the last week, just every now and again, you know, all day today, for example. Happy coding. If you have a series of conditions to run something, can't you exit from the test as soon as one of them is true? Yeah, that's another point actually, because one of the things, or I think I know what you mean, but one of the things I did earlier on was where I had, say, 2 or 3 or 4 conditions in one, you know, that compounded together in one if statement. It made sense to just, hang on a minute, take the most, the least likely of those, yeah, first. I'm not explaining this very well, but check one of them, the one that's hardly ever happens, because there are instances where I found an example like that, where on every time it was checking several conditions, but one of them meant that the others were never ever likely to happen unless that first one was. So it's check that first one, then have a second if statement, check the next most likely, then check the next most likely. You then gain in terms of performance, because you're not having to do all those extra checks when they don't make sense according to one of the other conditions, if that makes sense. See what I mean? So I've done a lot of stuff like that where there's just crazy things. Fisher Price never breaks. That's true. For example, when you do a collision test, if X fails, you don't bother checking Y. Yes, that's the point. Yeah, so I've done a lot of that sort of stuff as well as all the stuff I mentioned about the strings. Do you need the red flashes? Not necessarily. I missed that. Let's just run that again. I was going for the red flashes as an effect. We could actually either slow them down or speed them up. The whole idea that it's in an airlock and it's the light's flashing, but I guess it's not obvious the light's flashing. I could make the light flash. I don't know. I could make it rotate, and the problem is, you see, we've got one red there to deal with. What you really want with something like that is a few more shades of red, because then you can have an effect of something spinning round or something. So I don't know. We could try it without the red flashing. Let's just do that. We do lock and Yeah, so the code might look crappy. It might look the way of. Let's just get rid of that. Don't need that anymore. Yeah, so one of the things you've got to do, and Dennis mentioned this the other day, when you're working on the Lynx, it's another 8-bit systems as well, using CC65, it's a good idea to have global variables rather than variables declared within the code. So I've got some here that are pretty wasteful. So even though they're declared here, they actually eat some of the main memory for everything, even though they're only declared and stuff and used here, which is a crazy thing, but that's a similar thing that I had with the strings. Cassie Mavic to the last stream, it's the same thing with the strings. You would think that if you used a string in this function here, that it would only ever use space in this function unless I use that string to populate an object somewhere else. But it doesn't work like that way. I guess that's where you're better off doing it in assembly or something. But you then have to create everything that doesn't exist, like your string manipulation functions and things for outputting strings to the screen. And that's one of the next things I need to do actually before this is final. Anyway, let's just get rid of that red background. Yeah, it's this here. So yeah, again, this is inefficient. I'm using a function called TGI bar to literally just draw a big red block, so it'll speed up once we get rid of that. Got an else there, haven't I? Just trying to think what the else is. Yeah, so what I was going to say is some of this stuff is where it looks a bit cryptic. Temp, it's because it's a global variable. I wouldn't call a variable temp because you know what? It confuses me. I'm looking back at the code, I'm like, what the hell's temp? And there's a lot of that. There's a lot of that because you've got to keep reusing things. You've got to have your variable names pretty generic in order that you can use them all over the place. And of course, then you've got to be careful if you've got code that's calling code, that they're not both using the same variables and things. It gets really, really, a situation where your mind melts. Let's just comment that out. I'm going to get rid of that because that's just an example I copied from elsewhere in the program. Let's just see what it looks like without the red flashes. I'll just check on chat again. It's probably going to look better without the red flashes, I don't know. Oh, we still got a flash there. Oh, I know why. It's because that statement there saying, the if statement there, this is why I've got this if, I've just worked it out. It's if it's doing the flash, you don't need to draw the alien, do you? You don't need to do all the other stuff, you don't need to draw the airlock. So, yeah, we could just get rid of that. Just draw it all the time, that should stop the flickering. So, I don't know, let me know your thoughts. Do you think it's going to be better without the red flashing? It's a shame I can't really animate the alien there as well, but we got the door coming down and stuff, and I got the sounds there. You hear the airlock sound when just before it happens, and then the door comes down. I guess I was going to say I could have the alien sample on there, but I think those segments will overlap. But anyway, that seems all right. Let's just have a quick look at the chat. Exos UK, hello, what's going on? Yeah, just doing some stuff on the Lynx here, a bit of development finishing off this game. It depends on the compiler interprets the many conditions. Some do exist to test when one is true, and that all tests exist not exist. Sorry, confusing myself reading that. In assembly, you have to do it that way. Yes, yeah. Maybe you can do palette change on the alien when light flashes so it looks like it's lit. Yeah, the other thing I thought about there is you could do some palette changes in that whole scene in general. What I mean is it's pretty bright and vibrant, that whole scene. We could try that now. If I lowered the palette brightness a bit, it might actually look better. Do you know what I mean? When it's nice and crisp and clear like that, it kind of looks a bit, I don't know, it doesn't quite look right. There's other things we could do as well. We could literally just tint the whole palette red. rather than have the red flashes. Now I think about it, you're giving me some good ideas here. Let's try that. Now the fade palette stuff I cannot use within this code, because thing is, let me show you code 2i. Yeah, let's just have a look at the game map up here. Let's just have a look at fade palette, see where that is. I think it's in a different segment, that's the problem. It's in code 1. That should work then. Let's just have a look at Airlock Ending. That's 2i. Let's just see what caused that. Yeah, so it's called from here. Ah, yeah. So yeah, it's called from here, but it's in segment 2i. That's one of the sub-segments. But if you look at where this one is, the main calling code here, it sits in. Oh, hang on, that sits in the main code segment, so that should work. Yeah, we can try that. It might crash. Right, let's just try and copy some of the code from elsewhere. Then let's try and fade the palette. It's ironic because that's the code I just deleted a minute ago. When I said it didn't work. Yeah, so let's borrow that. Go back to Airlock Ending. Yeah, so just coming back to what I was saying as well about the code. So this is not as clean and tidy as I would like, but you end up having to do things a specific way on the Lynx, like I say, to get the best out of it. It's the same with, you know, some of the stuff to do with sprites here. I reuse the same sprite. So this background sprite here is a main sprite that I use for the large full screen backgrounds. And again, that's not an efficient way of doing things. In many systems, you would want to just draw the specific little parts of a map, for example. But when we've got a floor that fills the screen, it makes sense to just fill the screen with a single image rather than try and have it as tiled. Yeah, on the NES, you'd have to do it in tiles. Yeah, on the Lynx, it's quite clever that you don't need to do that. You can just have one. You can have bitmaps of any size, more or less, and just split them. So yeah, it's not conventional at all. Right, so just trying to think where to put it. It needs to be at the top here before it loops. So once it goes into this loop here, and again, that loop there can seem crazy. You don't know what G loop is. You don't know why 101. It's flying by the seat of its pants, this routine, I think. So we got. In fact, we don't even need to do that. We don't need the if statement because we're just gonna. Yeah, we do need that. That wants to be master palette because the palette we're in here is the master palette. Yeah. So that should fade, produce a fade palette from that. Let's just try that. I've got the feeling that's going to crash because, yeah, that segment might not be loaded at that point. We can change it though if it isn't. Let's just see. Yeah, it's not loaded. So let's just load it. I think, yeah, I'm pretty sure we can. Let's just do it where where it gets called there. So as well as loading the code where the segment where the Airlock Ending is, let's also load the larger block of code which contains the fade palette routine. Segment code 1, I think it is. And then I've got a banking system here where you can specify when you're loading a segment, which you've got different types of banks. I've got a main. I just described this in the previous video, in like a main block and a sub block, and then you've got a few other ones. One to do with graphics and things. One or two to do graphics. So it's 1 is the main block. Let's try that. Out of bytes, are we? Hang on, no. Code segment 1. Let's just have a look at the constants. Or the defines, really, aren't they? Oh, it's code underscore 1. It's amazing the things you forget when you've been working on something for so long. Right, let's try that. I can't keep up with these messages. One day I have the hardware projects, I want to do it. I'll do some game coding, maybe some Neo Geo games. Yeah, that's what I'd like to do at some point. I want to do Mega Drive, Neo Geo. I mean, I've done NES stuff before because obviously I wrote a NES emulator, but I'd like to be able to do a port of this maybe to the NES and the C64. Right, I'm sorry if this camera's wobbling, by the way. Skip that now, see if it crashes. It's a 50-50. No, it didn't. So we've sorted out the issue there, but that didn't look like that faded the palette to me. Oh, it's going round and round and round. Why is that? Stuck in an endless loop. I know what that is. This is the point I made before about when you use some of these global variables in more than one place, it can it can mess things up. You know, it's like the fade palette routine is probably using something I'm using or set at the beginning there. It probably might be just be fade counter or something. Let's just have a quick look at that code. Airlock End. Let's see what we've got set here. We've got airlock offset, cycle pen temp. Well, it's not obvious. It's not obvious at all. Let's just have a look at fade palette. What's that using? No, that's using a local variable for loop there. Fade counter. That's it. Hang on, gone past it now. See, we were setting fade counter there. Let's set that there anyway. This code gets crazier and crazier as you go down this particular bit of code here. That all this is doing is everything to do with the airlock. You know, drawing the alien, drawing the airlock. Because the other thing is two lots of scaling going on. We've got the alien drawn behind the actual airlock to start with, and the reason I did that otherwise its tail clips on the door, and then the two things are scaling. The alien scales out and the screen sort of slightly scales out as well. I actually don't see what the clash is there actually. We'll just try it again and then I'll comment. If that doesn't work, I'll comment out the fade palette routine just to see does it behave any differently. I haven't got a palette at all now, look. I don't think. Yeah, I think that's just. I think the palette's set there. This is the problem I had the other day, didn't I, when I tried to demonstrate using the fade routine. I thought I'd work this out there. Yeah, so you pass it the pointer to the palette, and then you just assign fade palette. You don't need that to be indexed. I mean, we could do that. That will give you a crazy result because it points the palette to the wrong place. At least you'll be able to see it. Just see what that looks like. Colours are going to be wrong now. Oh, that's classic. Yeah, you can see what I mean. Let's just see if it ends though. I want to see what happens when it gets to the end. Why is that going round and round and round? That is a bit strange, isn't it? Right, let's just comment out the actual fade here. Oh. And obviously we don't need that now. I just want to see if it goes around without getting stuck in an endless loop. Because something there obviously is affecting that loop, and I can't immediately see what could possibly cause that. Unless something was overflowing somewhere, but I don't even see how that would be happening, to be honest. Oh no, it is just looping. Oh, I'm really confused now. I tell you what, let's just... I wonder if this is a segment thing. That's where something's loading a different segment and it's messing up something I just didn't think of. Because we've got this here and we've got this... Yeah, I've got load code 1. It's got to be something to do with that. This is obviously why I've been testing this every single little bit as you make every little change you do, because you get these problems like this, and if you've done significant changes you can spend God knows how long trying to work out what's going on. Right. Ah, I know what's going on. Did you hear the alien sound then? That's what's happening. It's trying to play the alien sound, I think, and that's in a different segment which overlaps the fade palette stuff, I think. What I wasn't expecting is when the alien dies that way to get it to play that sample, actually. I was thinking that shouldn't happen. Having said that, that comes after the point we're at. I honestly can't make sense of that. You see, that statement there is loading block 2 into that same segment straight after anyway. So it's not like by virtue of loading the place, the code there that contains fade palette has overwritten some code that then gets used, just after, because this point here is actually putting, what needs to be in that block anyway. So that can't be the problem. Just put that back there. The clue has got to be something to do with fade palette. Can't type now. It's definitely in code 1. So the only thing it's working with outside of there is, well, the timer, wait timer, fade counter. That's it. Yeah, the sounds are already like in the main resident memory, so it's not like playing a sound that could cause that. Oh, hang on a minute. Yeah, that kills the alien. That then loads... Imagine it's outside the main loop there. Let's just see where that is. Kill alien. That's in code 2, road 8. Ah, okay. So that's failing. Right, that's alright, we can easily fix that, I think. I mean, what you could do is on every single function here, you could have a call there to that load segment code. You know, the thing that actually checks the bank it's in and says, do we need to actually, reload it because it's not there? You could have that in every single one, but then it gets dead inefficient. So you've got to sort of keep track of things as you're going along yourself. As I'm doing here, when you hit a problem, you've got to try and work out why, as I think I've done. And then, just do it that way. It's a lot of keeping track of where you are yourself. I'm looking at the wrong thing there. It's not that one. Airlock End. Yeah. So where we got that there, that effectively needs to happen before the kill alien bit in and Airlock End. Yeah. So if we just page down there to the bottom of that, it's that bit there. That was actually where the sample's coming from. I've worked it out as well, because that sets a flag to play the sample. So yeah, might need to parameter on that so that when we call it from here, we can say we don't want that sample. I mean, in theory, I could play the sample before the alien goes out the airlock. I don't know, but really, I just wanted that sample of when the alien dies. You've killed it by attacking it. That was what that was for. So let's try that. It's ironic, isn't it? We start off trying to fade the palette, and we've just gone around doing all that jazz just to try and work out why it was looping. There we go, and we got the sample actually. That's quite cool. It's a bit, you can't get the sample at the same time as something else. This is the thing. You can, but what you need to do that is you need to have an interrupt handler. You need to, I don't know, use a timer or something to raise an interrupt and to process the sample as part of that interrupt handling routine. Let's just have a quick look at chat and I'll go back to the fade palette stuff in a sec. Every innocent code change breaks something. Yeah, tell me about it. It does on this. Code is a bit too much like my day job. Palette changed on the airlock, but not the alien because the alien is not in the red light. Yeah, you could do that. You could actually do it as it's gone out the airlock. So as it goes a bit further out, that's it. Suddenly, it's not affected by the red light. There's a few different things you could do there, but you can only do that if the airlock uses colours not in the alien image. Yeah, you can change the palette though, totally, and obviously you can change it on a H-plank as well. That's something we could do. What's your weekend plans, Gadget? I've got to go and fix my conservatory roof, Jamie. I've got some wood in the other room, and they've got some concrete, and yeah, a few things like that. I've got a gate to fix, and I need to tidy up and stuff around here. My wife's been away the last few days, but I've got to vacuum up, and I've got to just generally clean the house. I found being live reduces your IQ points by 20 points. It does. You're under pressure and stuff, and it's just like everything is 10 times harder. It's like I can't type now. Suddenly I can't type. Every instant code. Yeah, I've read that one. Yeah. If a colleague leave in a continue in a loop, that should have looped over 30k customers. Break, I mean. Yeah. Good evening. Hello. Jan Holbo Rasmussen. Hi. Great to see everybody coding for the Lynx. Yeah, I was a bit disappointed that there doesn't seem to be a lot of activity on Atari Age at the moment on the Lynx. The forum seems to have quietened up quite a bit. Because there were quite a lot of people developing for the Lynx. Condition match written incorrectly. Yeah. It wasn't that, was it? It was I had the wrong segment loaded. I was trying to call the kill alien method there, or function, and it wasn't actually in RAM. But this is the thing, you see, when you have something like that, it's not like where you've written something on Windows or something where you get, I don't know, some sort of error that tells you, some clue that something obvious is wrong. Because what happens is the code is following the pointer, it's following the address. Yeah. So if the code is not at that address, something's at that address, you land in some code somewhere else, and that might have a return. And it throws you back, and and then you get weird stuff, and you're like, what's going on here? This is just acting really weird, and that's what it is. You could be landed in graphic data or anything. You just happen to have got a return. I forgot what the opcode is now. Something that returns you to where you were. When you've done a jump like that. well, the original dev system was Amiga 2000 based. Yes, it was. Alex Thyssen has got that original setup. Actually, he's got a couple of the different PCBs that go with it that allow you to connect to Lynx. Because one of the things that was nice with that original dev kit, it supports the non-maskable interrupts. You can actually do a mod to the Lynx to add that interrupt line. I'm not quite sure you'd connect it to Handy or something, but in theory you could do that. You could compile, push code straight to the Lynx. But the thing with that Amiga dev kit there, the original dev kit, is you could debug it properly. You could pause it. You can get a dump of what's actually going on in memory. Whereas we can't really do that this way. I mean, you can with the developer version of Handy, but it's not something I've looked at. Anyway, let's just get back to the code. Let's just see if we can now work out what's going on with that fade palette, because it's exactly the same problem I had in that last stream, where as soon as I enabled the fade palette stuff, it went crazy. But we know why it went crazy there now, and I think it was a similar thing on the last stream actually when I did that. So we'll just reinstate that, reinstate that, reinstate that, and that. Let's just check. Yeah, fade counter set to 0. So that should fade the palette once and then assign it. Oh, hang on, we don't need that. I did that before just to prove a point that when you see nothing there, when you've assigned that, you can get it to display something by giving it the wrong location, and then it just displays crazy colours, and that's what we were seeing. It's a good way though, just we're doing things like that just to prove a point, so you can see exactly where it's broken, and yeah, we've got that same problem again, haven't we? Where the palette is just black. Let's try. I don't think it needs it, because I'm pretty sure I'd looked at the code elsewhere. It doesn't need that. This fades the palette. You pass it with a parameter into that palette, and you don't need to assign that. But anyway, let's try it that way. Hang on, that's not going to work. Let's try it with. I don't think that's going to work, because I'm pretty sure if we look at other code elsewhere where I've used that, you'll see that's it's not done that way. I think I should put some code in just to skip that blooming death screen. Actually, I'm sick of seeing that blooming alien. Yeah, you see, that's not worked. Why on earth is it black? That I'm sure is right, because we copied that from elsewhere. We can confirm that. Let's just do copy. Let's do find. Yeah, look, hang on. Whoop. We've got an example there where we're setting the palette that way. Same again there. Yeah, that looks identical. Maybe you need to do a clear after you've changed the palette. I don't think so though. We've got I just wonder what code that is. Title screen. Yeah, so that's doing the same thing. It's setting the fade counter, background, sprite. That's doing stuff to do with the pen. There's a thing called pen pal on every single sprite. Yeah, it's not the kind of pen pal that you write letters to. It's abbreviated pen pal. It means pen palette. For every sprite on the Lynx, you have a separate pen palette for it, and they're split into two. What's the word? Yeah, each nibble is one palette entry. So this is why if you look at this thing here, you got pen palette 1, so that's pointing to palette entries 2 and 3. 0 and 1 go at 0. Yeah, we're dealing with 1 there, so we're dealing with 2 and 3. And you can specify the value there. It's an 8-bit value. You can specify, you're specifying the value of those two palette entries at the same time, which is why it says 2-3. So that would be defaulting it back to 2-3. If you wanted color number, palette number 3, which is index 2, to be a different color, you could put a different color where that digit 2 is. You could put number 7, etc. It gets quite confusing, especially when you start swapping colors around between, like in a few different places. And I've done that in numerous places in this. You can't screw with your head. But anyway, so that's that. So everything else is looking normal there. Oh, that's different. Oh no, it's not. Yeah, that's the same. Yeah, the only thing it's not doing is that clear. So let's just go back to it and just see if that's maybe the answer. I don't think you need to clear it after you've changed the palette though. No, the clear is there. Maybe we need. I think we might need that. Let's try it. Because if TGI busy is just, obviously what's the word? It's it's a wrapper. TGI is a graphics handling, graphics API, if you like. That's a wrapper for CC65. So obviously, there's been calls on that TGI weight there to make sure that the Lynx hardware is ready, for you to interact with the screen, because you've got like double buffering going on. Yeah, so that is obviously not broken. It's just there's no display, is there? That is absolutely bizarre. You see, that's outside the loop. That's the palette E. I just can't see what is wrong with that. Can't see what's wrong with that at all. Any suggestions? I'm a bit stumped at the moment. Yeah, later Exos, thanks for popping by. That makes sense. Cross develop for both machines. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, you could do that with ST and Amiga pretty easily. TGI sounds like a new name for a rapper. Yeah. Is there any chance that that's been called multiple times? Because you see, when it comes in here, it does this stuff at the top, including setting the palette, but then we end up in a loop here with that one. We've got two loops. While TGI busy, so that's just waiting to make sure that the graphics hardware is ready to be, to do stuff. And then we've got a loop here while G-loop 101. So this is the stuff to do with the door. Believe it or not, that 101 there is the number of, it's 102, 0 to 102. 0 to 101, which is 102. So 102 pixels in height, the Lynx screen. So that crazily, that's what we're doing. We're saying that until the door has gone all the way down, we're doing all this other stuff, which is a really weird way of doing it, but it's just like quick and efficient. It was the final step there, adding the door in, and then I changed the code there to just loop through the displaying of the airlock with the alien zooming out, and then draw the door. When the door gets down to the bottom at 101, bang, that's it. That we're done with that whole thing, which is then when it bombs out down. Well, not really bombs out, but when it finishes down here, it's trying to see what it is now. Yeah, it's after this. It's after that. That's the end of if 101 loop. At which point it'll load the segments for the main part of the game, to get rid of the game over screen stuff. Kills the alien. So you see, it's got to be, if something was interfering with that, it's got to be within inside here. We've got TGI updated display. That gets called on every single iteration of that loop. We're not doing anything else with the palette in there. We're just doing outputting sprites. We're playing with the sprite pen pal there, but that's not it. See where fade pal is. I think fade pal, it should just be in, I wonder if this is going to be one of these things where it's in the wrong segment or something. No, because I've not got anything there to specify that, so... Oh, have I? Hang on, I don't see Fade Pal there. No, Fade Pal's not there, is it? It must be at the top. Fade Pal. Yeah, unsigned char. Well, we've got nothing that specifies what segment that's in, so that should always be resident. I'm wondering if something's like writing over it. Let's just go back to that code. Instead of fading the palette, let's just assign the other palette. Yeah, so it didn't make any difference putting that there, did it, in that order? So we got that. Let's just copy, comment out, and let's just put master pal e. In theory, that should just be as it was before. If that doesn't work, then there's weird stuff going on. Why have we got that flickering back again? That's strange, isn't it? Am I imagining things? Didn't we comment that out before? We commented out the flickering. Oh, it might be because of this clear. Yeah, it's because we've not got that. That's what it is. Yeah, it's important that you obviously wait for the hardware to be ready, because you've got double buffering, so you've got two copies of the screen. And the way it works is it's like this on all double buffer systems, where your output, you blit to the screen, so you blit into a certain area of RAM, it copies, block transfer. That's what blitter is. Bit block transfer. You're copying a block of RAM sprite to an area of RAM screen buffer. Yeah, you do that, and then you do something that updates the display, which flips between the buffers. Yeah, so you're now looking, the actual screen is displaying that image you've just drawn. Yeah. Meanwhile, you've got another copy of the screen here, and you start drawing your sprites to it. Yeah. And then the same thing happens when you finish with that. You call some routine to flip the pointer back over in the video hardware, so the video chip is now pointing at that RAM instead of the other RAM. Yeah, and you just keep swapping between the two. That's what that TGI wait is for. If you've not got that while TGI busy, not TGI wait, TGI Fridays, that's what I keep thinking. Yeah, so that's right now. That's inside the loop. It's waiting before it does the clear. You could try and... let's just try it again. The palette should be right. It was right a minute ago, wasn't it? It was just the flickering. We'll move it inside the loop. Let's move it inside the loop. It shouldn't be in the loop, because you don't want it to keep happening every single iteration through. But maybe something will be different there. I don't know. Yeah, so that's it. No flickering. Colours are right. And our alien sample, so that's all good. Let's now just change it back to Fade Pal, and stick it inside the loop. Maybe we'll stick it after that, after the clear. Maybe you can actually change the palette as. Oh, where's it gone? Didn't copy it. You can actually change the palette on the fly. You can do it, let's say, on a H blank or something, and as long as got a breakpoint on there, which is interesting. As long as you time it right, you can do that. Scott, what's it called? Scott D. Williamson did that on Road Blasters. It got right down towards the bottom of the screen. He changed the palette and then altered, drew some stuff there using an extra few colours. It's black again, isn't it? I just do not get that. You see, what we do know, we know that the palette that's going into that routine is correct because we assigned it directly. Yeah, the master palette E for the enhanced version, and everything looked normal. So it's obviously assignment of that palette there. Something's happened to that palette. Now, the obvious thing is when you call fade palette, maybe it's not in RAM or something, but I thought we just checked all this stuff. Fade palette is in block 1, code block 1. Let's just check that. There we go, code 1 row data. Okay, so it's in code 1. Let's just have a look where we loaded that again. Airlock end, not that, there. So yeah, it's loading segment code 1. And then that subsegment there, I just don't get it. I just don't get it. It makes no sense at all. That's in a different block totally. This is correct. Load segment code 1. I mean, technically, we could do that from within. I think. Let's just have a look where Airlock End is. Isn't that in 2i? Yeah, that's in 2i. So, I mean, just to be double 100% sure, when we come in here, let's just load that segment. Can't be not there now. You see, the other weird thing is, like, let me just show you. If I just go into the main menu here and I press, and I added fade palette here just yesterday. If I do 2 to go into the how to, did you see that fade? Do it again. Fade, look, that's faded. You know, 2 to go into, oh, you do it from there, don't you? 2, that faded. It's using the same blooming palette, works the same blooming way. I don't get it. I mean, we can look at that. Let's just look at that. Instructions. There you go. Fade counter set to 0 first. Then we've got a loop here because you know that traps all the handling within this function for that drawing of that screen. Same thing. Fade counter less than that. Assign the palettes there. Pointer index 0, and then assign the palette the same blooming way. That's exactly the same. I'm wondering how that's working now, because that one's in code 3. I'm starting to lose it here. That's in code block 3. Let me just look at the memory map, I'll just show you. Code block 3 is there. That goes at 17 FF. Oh, hang on a minute. Hang on a minute. Yeah, that's... oh no. That makes no sense. Because the thing is, fade palette, according to what we were looking at before, is in here. 17FF. So when fade palette is called there, that shouldn't work. Technically, that shouldn't work. Yeah, we're in code 3. We're not loading any of the segments or anything there, and we better call to fade palette straight away. That makes me think fade palette's somewhere else. Fade. Oh, fade palette. I can just look at its declaration code, definition, or whatever it's called. There it is. Code 1. So have a look at the memory map again. What might be happening here is it's the top of that. Yeah, I think that's just working by fluke. Because if you look at the size of code 3, it's only 17 7E. I mean, this can work to your advantage. Sometimes you might not know what I'm going on about here, but like you've got code 1 which contains the fade palette, yeah, and it's probably in the upper area of that address there, 273D, somewhere near that, yeah. It's like the top of that block, and then for the instructions, this gets paged in. It ends at 17.7e. Yeah, it's not going anywhere near as high as up here 273D. So fade palette still resident. So when you make a call to it, there's a link to where it will be when it's at that address. Just happens to work. you just look out. So that's why it works there. However, that doesn't explain why it doesn't work now. Because now we're in a code down here, something like 2i or something. Let's just confirm exactly where that is, and then we'll go back to having a look at that. Where's it gone? Yeah, so if I go to the routine we're in, I forget where we are now, Airlock End. Yeah, so we're 2i. Yeah, that's where that is, 2i. So if I go back to the memory map, so 2i is here. This is one of the sub blocks. It's a tiny little bit of code. But prior to that, we also loaded code block 1, that one, which contains fade palette. I don't see what else could be overlapping that, unless something else is sitting over something around 17FF. Let's just see what other loads are going on in that bit of code, because that might provide a clue. There might be something else I'm overlooking that's obvious. We tried loading it there, didn't we, ourselves directly? That didn't make a difference, so let's just comment that out. We've already done that just before we called Airlock Ending, so it isn't that one. Yeah, well, let's check that one out, because that's an obvious one. You see, I'm not using the normal constants and things there, so it's, mind you, it's going into 0, and it's graphical, so that's not even the same bank. Unless that bank was overflowing, but it could be that. It could be that that's over. Now, mind you, the fade palette was right at the top. If you look at how it's working in the instructions, fade palette was right at the top of that block somewhere. So even if something was overflowing from earlier on, before 17FF, that would not cause the problem. So it isn't that one. Let me just check those out. Segment 58 and segment 60. Mind you, they're both going into the first bank there. Mind you, that's what I'm specifying it as, but it might be going elsewhere. Let's just have a look at the map. So it's 58 and 60. It's here, isn't it? It's directory I want. Yeah, it's the airlock stuff. So it's this one here. 58. So it's Airlock Rodea and Airlock E Rodea. So let's see where those go. I'm not sure where you find that now. Is it here? No, it's not here. It's on that one. Yeah, so it's that one. Bitmap. Yeah. See, so and that one's the same, isn't it? Bitmap start. There's code sub. Oh, hang on a minute. Oh no, that's right. Yeah, I was just looking at that sample. Sample's going into main area. That's correct. Let's just check these are the ones. That one's bitmap start, bitmap size, code sub. And then we've got 2 mains there for 3 and 4. That's correct. That one's code sub. Yeah, they're all correct. Could check here, I guess, just to make sure there's no inconsistencies. Yeah, so that's loading airlock into airlock, airlock E into airlock E. It's going to be one of these blue in the face things, this, isn't it? I'm going to be looking at this for blooming ages. You just know where the segment's loaded after that. I tell you what it could be. I've had this before. It's my own fault if this is the case. You see that when I loaded these things up here, hang on. I've not got an example of it there, but what you can do, there's two different ways, right? The standard way when you use C65 of loading a segment is something like, is it Lynx load? Lynx, I thought it was Lynx load. I can't even remember what that's called now. There's two different ways though. Load segment is something I've created. And in fact we could find that if I just go look at find definition. Yeah, it is Lynx load. I don't know why that wasn't coming up. Yeah, and then obviously with that, you just pass it the segment name. And if I've left an instance of a call somewhere in there to do that, when I call this routine, it thinks we're in the right bank already. If you see what I mean, there's a possibility it's not. It's not in the right bank, but it thinks it is. That would explain it. So let's just try forcing. Let's just use Lynx load. If this doesn't work, I'm going to get off, I think, because I need to go and get some tea. And I might come back later if I work it out, just to give you an update. Let's just go back to Airlock End. It's incredible how much time I spent messing around with this palette stuff. Right, so let's just force it there. Segment code 1. If that doesn't work, I don't know what will. If that does work, that explains it. I know what the problem is. I just need to go and find where I've got an instance of a direct call there without using the banking system I've got. It's all it is a little bit of a middleware that sits in between, a function that just passes the same thing on but keeps track of what's actually loaded in there. The idea being that you don't have to keep loading segments in when you don't need to be there. If it's already loaded, what's the point in reloading it? No, that's not worked. Looks like, isn't that? Don't know. I'm out of blooming ideas with that. Something's got to be overflowing somewhere. It don't make any sense. I miss my coding days, just out of self-motivation. Yeah, it takes a long time and a lot of determination, doesn't it, to do stuff. Starting is the hard bit. Once you get going, it's not. I'm not too bad, but Friday 4-day weekend, yay! Is it bank holiday? Is it a Monday as well? Bank holiday Monday? I don't know. Or is it just Saturday, Saturday, Sunday now, and then back to work again? An hour already. Right, I'm going to get off then. So someone said check sample 1. Yeah, I'll check that. I am unusual Brit who does not like tea. Well, I'm not into live streams, but it's nice to see you. Yep, nice to see you. Thanks for stopping by. I know it's not everybody's cup of tea, this, because it's not really what the channel is generally, but I mean, I do, bits of everything really. And this is obviously really important to me that I want to get it finished. But anyway, you've seen that's seen the new stuff. I've got that def sample there. I've got the airlock scene there. If you didn't want to see that, just rewind back if you didn't see that when I did have the palette working. So I just need to work out what's going on at the palette. Anyway, thanks for watching, supporting and stuff, and I'll catch you in the next video. Cheers guys, have a good week.